The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was deep in a dream when my phone shattered the silence. Mom flashed on the screen. My heart seized, not with worry, but with that old familiar dread. Middle of the night calls from my mother never meant emergency. They meant triumph. They meant she'd done something she was proud of, something I'd pay for later. I answered anyway. "Jasmine, baby, you awake?" Her voice was champagne bubbles and victory. Before I could answer, I heard my sister Brianna squealing in the background. We did it, we finally did it." My stomach dropped. "Did what, Mama? What's going on?" "Oh, baby," my mother laughed, that gorgeous, carefree laugh she only used when spending money that wasn't hers. "We just closed the sale on your condo. Got $520,000 cash, can you believe it? Your sister's wedding is going to be everything she dreamed of." The room tilted. The darkness of my bedroom suddenly felt like it was crushing me. My voice came out strangled. "My condo? Mama, what are you talking about? You can't sell my—" She cut me off with that dismissive little T-esque sound she'd perfected over decades. "Don't be dramatic, Jasmine. Your name isn't on the deed, sweetheart. Me and your daddy's names are on it. Legally, it's been ours all along. You've just been helping with the payments. Bless your heart. Helping with the payments." The words echoed in my skull like a gunshot. The $95,000 down payment I'd scraped together from 3 years of 80-hour work weeks as a software engineer. The 64 consecutive months of mortgage payments I'd never missed once. Not even when I was so sick with pneumonia I could barely stand. The property taxes, the HOA fees, the special assessments, all of it, every single cent, had come from my account. But before I tell you how I turned this betrayal into the greatest comeback of my life, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever been the responsible child who gets used like an ATM machine, hit that like and subscribe button, because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. My name is Jasmine Carter, and I'm 31 years old. I've been writing code since I was 14, building apps since I was 16, and making 6 figures since I was 24. I'm a senior software engineer at a Fortune 500 tech company in Chicago, and I'd worked myself half to death to afford my dream condo in Lincoln Park. That condo wasn't just an address, it was proof. Proof that a black girl from the South Side who grew up sharing a bedroom with 2 sisters could make it. Proof that staying up until 3 a.m. studying algorithms while my friends partied was worth it. Proof that I'd broken the cycle. Or so I thought. "Mama," I whispered into the phone, my voice shaking now. "Where am I supposed to live? What am I supposed to do?" There was a pause. I heard ice clinking in a glass. She was drinking. Celebrating. "Well, honey," she said slowly, like she was explaining something to a child. "The new owners are very sweet. A lovely young couple, doctors both of them. They're giving you 30 days to pack up and find something else. Isn't that generous? 30 days. They were giving me 30 days to vacate the home I'd paid for, the home I'd furnished piece by piece, the home where I'd hung my Howard University degree on the wall, the home where I'd finally felt safe. "We have to run, baby," my mother continued, her voice bright again. "The wedding planner is coming by in the morning to talk about the ice sculpture. Can you imagine? An ice sculpture. Your sister is going to have the wedding of the century. We'll see you at Sunday dinner. Love you." Click. She was gone. I sat there in my bed, in my beautiful bedroom with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline, and I felt something inside me crack. Not break. Crack. Like a fault line before an earthquake. I'd spent my entire life being the good daughter. The smart one. The strong one. The one who didn't need help because she could figure it out herself. And they'd been waiting all along to harvest me. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I couldn't think about code or sprint planning or deployment pipelines. I could only think about one thing. How did this happen? I spent 6 hours going through every document, every email, every bank statement from the past 5 years, and then I found it. The closing documents from when I'd bought the condo. I'd been 26 years old, fresh off a massive promotion, and so proud of that $95,000 I'd saved. I remember sitting at that attorney's office, signing paper after paper while my parents smiled and nodded encouragingly. My father, Raymond, had put his arm around me. "This is the right thing, Jazzy. Building equity young, that's how generational wealth starts." My mother had squeezed my hand. "And having us co-sign makes it so much easier with the bank, baby. You know how they are about young black folks and big loans." I'd believed them. I'd thought they were helping me navigate a racist banking system. I'd thought they were proud. I'd been such a fool. There, on page 47 of the title documents, in tiny legal print I'd never read carefully enough, was the truth. The deed listed Raymond Carter and Monica Carter as sole owners. My name appeared exactly once, on page 63, in a section labeled Beneficial Contributors. Not owner, not co-owner, contributor. I was listed the same way you'd list someone who helped paint a fence. I sat there staring at those documents until my eyes burned, and then I started making phone calls. The first call was to my best friend since childhood, Keisha Williams. She picked up on the first ring. "Girl, I know that tone. What did they do now?" When I finished telling her, there was a long silence. Then, Keisha's voice came back, cold and sharp. "Jazz, you need to talk to my cousin Marcus. He's a lawyer. Real estate litigation. And he's mean. Real mean." The second call was to Marcus Williams, Esquire. His office was in a gleaming tower in the Loop, all glass and steel and power. We met the next day. I brought every document, every statement, every receipt. Marcus was 38, with silver-rimmed glasses and the kind of quiet intensity that made you believe he could destroy someone with a contract clause. He listened to everything without interrupting. Then he leaned back in his leather chair and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Miss Carter," he said, "your parents made a critical error. They forgot about one thing." I leaned forward. "What?" "Unjust enrichment," he said. "You have 64 months of bank statements showing you paid every penny of that mortgage. You have emails where they acknowledged your payments. You have text messages thanking you for covering the property taxes. Any competent attorney can prove they took your money under false pretenses. We can sue them for every cent you put in, plus damages, plus legal fees. But," he continued, holding up one finger, "that would take years. Court dates, depositions, appeals. You'd get your money eventually, but it would be ugly and public and expensive. Or," he leaned forward, his eyes glinting, "we could do something more creative. Tell me about your parents' house." My breath caught. Their house, 1847 Oakwood Boulevard in Oak Park. A beautiful 4-bedroom Victorian they'd bought 20 years ago, for $280,000. It was worth at least $550,000 now. My mother loved that house more than anything. More than her children, honestly. It was her throne, her proof that she'd made it, her ultimate status symbol in the black professional community. "Tell me about their mortgage," Marcus said. "Do they still owe?" I nodded slowly. "They refinanced 3 years ago. Took out equity to buy my sister Brianna that luxury car and pay for her failed boutique business. They owe about $340,000 still." Marcus's smile grew wider. "And who pays that mortgage?" My heart stopped. "Say that again? Who pays their mortgage every month, Jasmine?" My voice came out as a whisper. "I do. For the last 8 years, I'd been paying my parents' mortgage. It started when I was 23, right after I got my first real job. My father had sat me down, his face grave. 'Baby girl, we're struggling. The economy, my hours got cut, your mama's commission is down. We might lose the house. Just for a few months, could you help us out? We'll pay you back.' A few months turned into 8 years. $2,800 a month, every month, automatically transferred from my account to theirs. They never paid me back. They never even thanked me after the first year. It just became expected, and I'd never told anyone because I was ashamed. Ashamed that at 31 years old, I was still supporting my parents. Ashamed that they saw me as a resource instead of a daughter. Marcus was pulling up something on his computer now, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice careful, "how would you like to own a $550,000 house for about $340,000? I blinked. "What?" Their mortgage is underwater by your standards, he explained. You've been making the payments, but the deed is in their names. If they default, the bank forecloses. But, he paused for effect, if someone were to purchase that mortgage note from the bank, that someone would have significant leverage. You're saying I should buy their debt? Marcus nodded. Exactly. We approach the bank quietly. We offer to buy the note at a discount. Banks love that. Gets a troubled loan off their books without the hassle of foreclosure. Then you own the debt. And if they can't pay you back all that money you've put in, plus interest, well, his smile was absolutely predatory now. You could foreclose. Take the house as settlement. My mother's house. The house she threw parties in. The house she showed off to her bougie friends. The house she loved more than me. I sat there feeling that crack inside me widen into a canyon. How much would it cost? Marcus did some quick calculations. The bank would probably sell you the note for around $280,000. Add in legal fees, another $15,000. So about $295,000 total to buy a $550,000 asset and own your parents' entire financial future. I had $340,000 in savings. Money I'd been hoarding since I was 16. Money I'd planned to use for early retirement, for freedom, for peace. I looked at Marcus. Do it. Over the next 3 weeks, while I pretended everything was normal, while I smiled at Sunday dinners and listened to my mother gush about Brianna's wedding plans, Marcus was working. He was a shark in a suit, and he was magnificent. He approached Fifth Third Bank with a simple pitch. You have a mortgage note on 1847 Oakwood Boulevard that's been current but risky. The borrowers are in their late 50s with inconsistent income. Let me take it off your hands. The bank didn't even hesitate. They sold him the note for $265,000, even less than we'd projected. Marcus called me from the bank's office, his voice electric with victory. Jasmine, I'm holding the deed of trust right now. You own their house. Well, technically you own their debt, which is basically the same thing. My hands were shaking. What happens now? Now, he said. We wait. We wait for them to miss a payment. And the beautiful thing is, with all the money they just spent on Brianna's wedding, they're about to miss a lot of payments. He was right. The wedding was a spectacle that happened 2 weeks later. I went because not going would have raised suspicions. It was at the Four Seasons, with 300 guests, a live band, an open bar with top-shelf everything, and a dress that cost $15,000. Brianna looked like a princess. My mother looked like a queen. And I looked like a ghost. I stood in the corner watching my parents laugh and dance and accept congratulations. My sister's new husband, Derek, was a nice enough guy, a lawyer from a good family. He had no idea his in-laws were financial vampires. At one point, my mother pulled me aside. Her eyes were bright with champagne and triumph. Oh, Jasmine, she sighed. Isn't this perfect? Isn't your sister glowing? This is what family is about, baby. Sacrifice. Taking care of each other. You did good helping us make this happen. Helping. That word again. As if I'd had a choice. As if they'd asked instead of stolen. I smiled. I'd been practicing that smile in the mirror. It's beautiful, Mama. Brianna deserves everything. My mother squeezed my arm. You know, we were talking, and we think maybe you should move back home for a while. Save some money after losing your place. You can have the guest room. The smallest room in the house. The room with the broken window and the stained carpet. They wanted me to pay rent in my own house while living in their worst room. I kept smiling. That's so generous, Mama. Let me think about it. 3 weeks later, Marcus called again. Jasmine, they missed their first payment. My heart started racing. Are you sure? Positive. The payment was due on the 1st. It's now the 15th. No payment, no contact, nothing. We're legally in default territory now. What do we do? We send them a notice, he said. A formal notice that the mortgage note has been purchased and payment is now due to the new note holder. We give them 30 days to make contact and arrange payment. And if they don't, then we start foreclosure proceedings. I want you to prepare yourself, Jasmine. This is going to get ugly. He had no idea how ugly. The notice was sent via certified mail the next day. My father signed for it on a Wednesday afternoon. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded. 23 missed calls, 47 text messages, 3 voicemails. I let them pile up. I was at work, in a meeting, and I refused to let them interrupt my life anymore. When I finally checked my voicemail that evening, the messages were a journey through the 5 stages of grief. The first one was confusion. My father's voice, uncertain. "Jazzy, we got some strange legal papers today about the house. There must be some mistake. Can you call us?" The second was anger. My mother's voice, sharp and accusatory. "Jasmine Nicole Carter, you need to call us right now. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is not funny." The third was bargaining. Both of them on speaker, my mother's voice honey sweet. "Baby, we know you're upset about the condo, but this is too far. Let's talk about this like adults. Call us back, please." I didn't call back. 3 days later, they showed up at my office. I was in the middle of a code review when my desk phone rang. Security downstairs. "Miss Carter, you have visitors in the lobby. A Mr. and Mrs. Raymond Carter. They say they're your parents." My manager, a white woman named Susan, looked up with concern. "Is everything okay, Jasmine?" I forced a smile. "It's fine. Personal matter. Can I take 15 minutes?" She nodded, and I took the elevator down to the lobby, my heart hammering. They were standing by the security desk, looking out of place and small in the gleaming corporate lobby. My father looked older than I remembered, his hair grayer, his shoulders more stooped. My mother looked furious, her designer purse clutched like a weapon. "Jasmine," my father started, his voice cracking. "Baby, what's going on? We got these papers saying we owe $340,000 to some company called Carter Holdings LLC. What is this?" I looked at them both. "Carter Holdings LLC is me. I bought your mortgage note from the bank." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face went through several colors. Red, purple, white. "You did what?" Her voice was barely a whisper. I said, "I bought your debt. For the last 8 years I've been paying your mortgage. That's $268,800 you owe me. Plus 8 years of property taxes I also paid. That's another $47,000, plus interest. You owe me $340,000, and the only collateral you have is your house." My father grabbed a chair, sitting down hard. But we're your parents. You can't. This is illegal. It's extortion." I pulled out my phone and opened a PDF. "Actually, Daddy, it's completely legal. I had a lawyer draw everything up. You borrowed money from me under false pretenses. You used me for years without any intention of paying me back. And you just sold my $520,000 condo without permission to fund Brianna's wedding." My mother found her voice, and it was venomous. "We raised you. We fed you. We clothed you. Put a roof over your head for 18 years. You owe us." I felt that crack inside me finally split wide open. "I owe you?" I repeated softly. "I owe you for doing the bare minimum that parents are legally required to do? For not abandoning me? Daddy, do you know how much I've given you over the years? Not just the mortgage. Every time the car broke down, every time the water heater died, every time you needed to impress your friends with a vacation you couldn't afford. I paid. I always paid. And you never said thank you. You just expected more." My mother's voice turned cold. "So this is about gratitude? You want us to grovel?" "No, Mama," I said. "This is about equity, about fairness. You stole my condo, so I'm taking your house. You have 30 days to come up with $340,000. If you can't pay, I foreclose. It's that simple. You're going to make us homeless?" My father whispered. "You'd put your own parents on the street?" I looked at him, this man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd come to my high school graduation, who I'd once thought was a hero. "I'm doing exactly what you did to me. How does it feel?" I turned and walked back to the elevator, leaving them standing there. I didn't look back. Over the next 2 weeks, they tried everything. My mother showed up at my new apartment, which I'd carefully kept secret. She stood outside my building screaming until security removed her. My father sent me 43 emails, each one a different strategy. Some were apologetic, some were angry, some were appeals to family, to God, to decency. I didn't respond to any of them. Brianna called me crying. "How can you do this to them? To us? This is our family home." I told her the truth. "They sold my home to pay for your wedding, Bri. They chose you over me, like they always have. I'm just returning the favor." She called me a monster and hung up. My aunts and uncles started calling, each one with a speech about family loyalty. My cousin Terrence, who'd always been the favorite, left me a voicemail saying I was a disgrace to the family name. I blocked them all, one by one, until my phone was finally blissfully quiet. Marcus kept me updated on the legal proceedings. They hired an attorney, he told me on day 18. A guy named Simmons. Not very good. He's trying to claim undue influence and emotional distress. "It won't work. We have paper trails for everything. Can they come up with the money?" Marcus snorted. "They've mortgaged everything. Tried to take out loans. Nobody will touch them. They're 59 and 57 with terrible credit and no stable income. They're cooked." "How long until foreclosure?" "Another 10 days if they don't pay," he said. "Then it goes to auction. And I assume you want to bid?" I smiled. "Oh, I'm definitely bidding." Day 30 came and went. No payment. Marcus filed the foreclosure paperwork. The auction was set for 45 days later. That's when my mother did something I didn't expect. She went to my job. She showed up at our quarterly all-hands meeting, somehow talked her way past security, and stood up in the middle of our CTO's presentation. Her voice rang out across the auditorium. "My daughter, Jasmine Carter, is trying to steal my house." 300 people turned to stare at me. I sat frozen in my seat, 5 rows back, as my mother continued. "She's using her fancy lawyer tricks to take away the home where she grew up, the home where I raised her. She's greedy and heartless, and I'm begging you, as her colleagues, her friends, talk some sense into her." Security was moving toward her now. My CTO, a man named Robert Chen, held up his hand. "Ma'am, this is a private corporate event. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." My mother pointed at me, her finger shaking. "That's my daughter right there. Ask her. Ask her how she's treating her own mother." Every eye in the room was on me. I stood up slowly. My legs felt like water, but my voice came out steady. "Mama, you need to leave. Now." She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not anger, not manipulation. Fear. "Baby, please," she whispered. "Please don't do this. We're your family." Security escorted her out. The room was dead silent. Robert caught up with me after the meeting. "Jasmine, is everything okay? Do you need some time off?" I shook my head. "It's a family matter. It's being handled through legal channels. I'm sorry it spilled into work." He studied me carefully. "You're one of our best engineers. If you need anything, resources, support, you let me know." I appreciated that, but what I needed wasn't something HR could provide. I needed closure. The auction happened on a cold Tuesday in November. It was held at the county courthouse, in a fluorescent-lit room that smelled like old coffee and broken dreams. There were maybe 15 people there, real estate investors mostly, people looking for deals on foreclosed properties, and my parents. They sat in the back row holding hands. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years. My mother looked like a ghost. The auctioneer, a bored-looking woman in her 60 seconds, started the proceedings. 1847 Oakwood Boulevard, Oak Park. 4-bedroom, 3-bath Victorian. Opening bid is $340,000. I raised my paddle. $340,000. An investor in the front raised his. $350,000. I raised mine again. $360,000. Another investor. $370,000. I could see my mother starting to hope. Maybe someone else would buy it. Maybe I'd lose. Maybe they'd get to stay. I raised my paddle again. $380,000. The first investor shook his head and sat down. It was just me, and one other guy now. A white man in an expensive suit who looked like he flipped houses for fun. He bid $390,000. I bid $400,000. He looked at me, then at his phone, calculating. Then he shrugged and sat down. Not worth it. Going once, the auctioneer said. Going twice. My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. Sold to paddle number 12 for $400,000. The house was mine. I paid in full that day. Cashier's check, already prepared. Marcus handed me the keys in the courthouse hallway. Congratulations, he said. You now own a $550,000 house for $400,000, and you got revenge on the people who stole from you. How does it feel? I looked down at the keys. They were heavy, heavier than I expected. It feels like justice, I said, but it also feels hollow. Marcus nodded. That's because revenge is like that. It fills a hole, but it creates a new one. What are you going to do with the house? I looked through the courthouse window. My parents were getting into their old car, my father helping my mother into the passenger seat. She looked broken, small, nothing like the powerful, manipulative woman who'd raised me. I don't know yet, but they have to be out in 30 days. Marcus left, and I stood there holding those keys, feeling their weight. I drove to Oak Park, to my house now. I parked across the street and just looked at it. This beautiful Victorian with its wraparound porch and its garden that my mother had always been so proud of. I remembered playing in that yard as a kid. I remembered the tree fort my father built. I remembered my mother teaching me to make lemonade in that kitchen, before everything got complicated. Before I became a resource instead of a daughter. Before they chose money over me. I sat there for an hour, maybe more. Then I drove back to my apartment and made a decision. The next day, I called a meeting with Marcus. I want to give them an option, I said. His eyebrows shot up. An option? What kind of option? I want to offer them a lease. They can stay in the house if they agree to certain terms. Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying me. Jasmine, you know this is a terrible idea from a purely legal standpoint. They'll never forgive you for this. You'll never have a normal relationship again. We never had a normal relationship, I said quietly. They made sure of that, but I don't want them homeless. I just want them to understand what they did to me. Tell me your terms. I slid a handwritten list across his desk. 1. They pay rent. $2,800 a month. Exactly what they had me paying on their mortgage for 8 years. 2. They acknowledge in writing that they stole $520,000 from me by selling my condo. 3. They apologize. A real apology, not a fake one. In writing. 4. They cut off Brianna financially. She's a grown woman. She can take care of herself. 5. They attend family therapy with me for at least 1 year. And 6. If they violate any term, they're out immediately. No second chances. Marcus whistled low. This is brutal. This is giving them a chance, I said, which is more than they gave me. He drew up the documents. We called it the Carter Family Reconciliation Agreement. Very official, very legal, very cold. I had Marcus deliver it to them in person. I wasn't ready to face them yet. He called me after the meeting. Your mother cried through the whole thing, he reported. Your father just sat there looking defeated. But they signed, all of it, even the apology. I asked him to read me the apology. He cleared his throat. Dear Jasmine, we acknowledge that we betrayed your trust in the most fundamental way possible. We stole your home, your security, and your peace of mind to pay for a party. We treated you like a bank instead of a daughter. We favored your sister and made you feel invisible. We were wrong. We are sorry. We will spend the rest of our lives trying to earn back your trust. Signed, Raymond and Monica Carter. I sat there listening to those words, and I cried. Not because they made me feel better, but because they made me feel something. I'd been numb for so long. They moved into their first month of rent on December 1st. I didn't go to the house. I wasn't ready. But Marcus reported that they'd paid on time, had started therapy, and had stopped calling me. That last part hurt more than I expected. I wanted them to fight for me, to call, to beg, to prove I mattered. But they just quietly accepted their punishment. On Christmas Eve, I got a package delivered to my apartment. Inside was a photo album, old pictures from my childhood, me at my first piano recital, me graduating from high school, me at my Howard University acceptance celebration. Every picture they'd ever taken of me, carefully organized, with little notes in my mother's handwriting. Jasmine, age 7, spelling bee champion. Jasmine, age 14, built her first website. Jasmine, age 22, got her dream job. So proud. I sat on my floor surrounded by these pictures and I realized something. They'd loved me. In their broken, dysfunctional way, they'd loved me. They'd just loved Brianna more. And they'd loved their image, their status, their comfort most of all. But I'd been there. I'd mattered. Once. The card inside read, "We don't expect forgiveness. We just wanted you to remember that there was love once, before we destroyed it." That's when I decided to go to therapy. Not family therapy. My own therapy. I found a Black woman therapist named Dr. Simone Grant, and I told her everything. "You're grieving," she said after our third session. "You're grieving the parents you thought you had, the family you thought you were part of. That's normal. But what are you going to do with that grief?" I'd been asking myself that same question. On New Year's Eve, I finally went to the house. I parked in the driveway. My driveway. I walked up to the front door and knocked. My father answered. He looked older, more tired, but somehow more real. "Jazzy," he said softly. "Come in." The house looked different. Smaller somehow. Or maybe I'd gotten bigger. My mother was in the kitchen making her famous sweet potato pie. She saw me and froze. "Baby," she whispered. I held up my hand. "I'm not here for a family reunion. I'm here because I need to say something." They both sat down on the couch. I stayed standing. "For 31 years I've been trying to earn your love. Trying to prove I was good enough, smart enough, successful enough. I sacrificed everything. My time, my money, my peace, because I thought if I just gave enough, you'd finally see me. Really see me. But you didn't. You saw a resource. You saw someone you could use. And when Brianna needed something, you didn't even hesitate. You just took what was mine and gave it to her." My father's head dropped. My mother's lips trembled. "I'm not here to forgive you," I continued. "I don't know if I ever will, but I'm here to tell you that I'm done being invisible. I'm done being the one who sacrifices. From now on, we have a business relationship. You pay rent. You follow the rules. And maybe, over time, we can build something new. But it starts with you seeing me. Actually seeing me." My mother stood up slowly. Can I hug you?" I hesitated, then nodded. She crossed the room and put her arms around me. She smelled like vanilla and sweet potatoes, like home used to smell. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered into my hair. "I'm so sorry." I didn't hug her back. Not yet, but I didn't pull away either. Over the next few months, something unexpected happened. They followed every rule, paid rent on time, went to therapy, stopped enabling Brianna, who had to get a real job for the first time in her life and was absolutely miserable about it. And slowly, carefully, we started talking. Real talking. Not about money or obligations or family duty. About real things. In March, my father told me about growing up poor in Mississippi, about the shame he'd carried his whole life about not being able to provide, about how he'd promised himself his daughters would never know that poverty, and how he'd gotten so twisted up in that promise that he'd forgotten what actually mattered. In April, my mother told me about her sister, my Aunt Carol, who died when I was 3. Carol had been the smart one, the achiever, the one who got the scholarship to Spelman, and she died in a car accident at 24, right before her graduation. And I looked just like her. Every time I achieved something, my mother saw her dead sister, and it hurt too much. So she turned away. She turned toward Brianna, who looked like her, who reminded her of herself, who felt safer. I didn't forgive her when she told me that, but I understood. Understanding isn't forgiveness, but it's something. In June, I got a promotion. Vice President of Engineering, youngest VP in company history, $280,000 salary plus equity. I called my parents to tell them. My father answered. "That's amazing, Jazzy." He paused. "I'm proud of you." Those words, "I'm proud of you," the words I'd been chasing for 31 years. They should have felt triumphant. Instead, they just felt sad, because I'd had to destroy everything to hear them. 2 weeks later, I was in therapy with Dr. Grant. She asked me a question that changed everything. "Jasmine, if you could go back and change what you did, would you?" I sat with that question for a long time. Would I give back the house? Would I let them keep the condo? Would I stay silent and small and invisible? "No," I said finally. "I wouldn't change it. But I wish I'd never had to do it." "That's the grief," she said gently. "You're grieving the family you should have had. The parents who should have protected you instead of using you. That grief is real and it's valid. But here's what I want you to consider. You saved yourself. Nobody else was coming to save you. You saved yourself. And that," she smiled, "is power." In August, Brianna called me. We hadn't spoken since the auction. Her voice was small, uncertain. "Jazz, can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop in Hyde Park. She looked different. Her hair was natural, no expensive weave. She wore jeans and a simple top, no designer labels. She looked real. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as she sat down, "for all of it. For taking advantage, for letting them spoil me, for not seeing what they were doing to you." I stirred my coffee. "What changed?" She laughed bitterly. "I had to pay my own bills for the first time in my life. I had to work 40 hours a week. I had to budget. And you know what I realized? You'd been doing all of that since you were 16. While I was out here playing Instagram model, you were building a real life. And I resented you for it, because your success made me feel worthless. So I let them give me everything, even when I knew it was coming from you." "Are you here because you need money?" I asked. She flinched. "No. I mean, I'm broke as hell. But no. I'm here because I miss my sister. And I'm here because I finally understand what family should actually mean." We talked for 3 hours. She told me about her marriage falling apart because Derek's family cut them off after the foreclosure scandal. She told me about having to move into a studio apartment, about learning to cook because she couldn't afford restaurants, about finding a job as a marketing coordinator making $45,000 a year and feeling like she'd failed at life. And then she said something that broke my heart. "I never got to be myself. I was always Mama's project, her doll, her proof that she'd made it. I never got to figure out who Brianna actually was underneath all that. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and I saw myself. Both of us, crushed under the weight of our parents' dysfunction, just in different ways. I'm not ready to be close again," I told her, "but I'm willing to try." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "That's more than I deserve." In September, I made a decision. I put the Oak Park house on the market. My parents had been model tenants for 9 months. They'd paid every penny of rent. They'd gone to therapy. They'd apologized countless times. But I realized something. I didn't want to be their landlord. I didn't want that power dynamic. I wanted something healthier, or nothing at all. I called them over to my apartment to tell them. They sat on my couch, tense and worried. "I'm selling the house," I said. Their faces went pale. "But," I continued, "I'm giving you an option. You can buy it back. I bought it at auction for $400,000. It's worth $550,000 now. I'll sell it back to you for $420,000. That's what I paid, plus a small profit to cover my costs. You'll need to qualify for a mortgage on your own. And you'll need $42,000 for a down payment." I paused. "I'm not giving you the down payment. You need to figure that out yourselves. But this is your chance to own your home again." My father stared at me. "Why would you do this?" "Because," I said carefully, "you've shown me over the past 9 months that you're trying to change. And because I don't want to be your landlord anymore. I want to be your daughter again. Or, I want to be nothing. This is the path to daughter." They bought it. It took them 4 months to save the down payment. They worked extra hours, cut back on everything, lived like I'd been living for years. And in January, on a cold Tuesday exactly 1 year after the auction, they closed on their own house. I went to the closing. We all sat around the table at the title company. My parents, me, Marcus, the title agent. When they signed the final document, when the house was officially theirs again, my mother started crying. These weren't manipulative tears. They were real. My father put his arm around her. Then he looked at me. "Thank you," he said, "for the lesson." I nodded. "Don't waste it." That night, they invited me to dinner at the house. Their house. I walked in and it felt different. Lighter. My mother had made all my favorite foods. Her famous fried chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, cornbread. Comfort food. Brianna was there too. She'd driven up from her apartment. We sat around the table, the 4 of us, and it was awkward. So awkward. Nobody knew what to say. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "I want to propose something," he said. "A new family tradition. Every Sunday dinner, we each share one thing we're grateful for and one thing we're working on. No judgment, just honesty." My mother nodded. "I'll start. I'm grateful that Jasmine taught us what real strength looks like. And I'm working on seeing both my daughters for who they really are, not who I wanted them to be." Brianna went next. "I'm grateful I finally have to work for things, weird as that sounds. And I'm working on building a life I'm actually proud of, not just one that looks good on Instagram." My father went. "I'm grateful we didn't lose everything. And I'm working on being the father I should have been all along." Then they all looked at me. I sat there feeling that old familiar pressure to perform, to say the right thing, to make everyone comfortable. But I decided to tell the truth instead. "I'm grateful that I saved myself," I said quietly, "because it taught me that I can survive anything. And I'm working on believing that I deserve to be saved." We ate dinner. We talked about small things. Work, weather, nothing deep. But it was real. And real was something we'd never been before. That brings us to today. It's been 18 months since this all started. Since that phone call at 2:47 a.m., I'm 33 now. I still work at the same tech company, but I negotiated remote work so I could move to Austin. I needed distance. Not from my family, from Chicago, from all the memories. I bought a small house here. My house. My name on the deed. No cosigners, no tricks, just mine. My parents and I talk once a week. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It's not perfect. It's not even good all the time. But it's honest. Brianna and I are slowly rebuilding. She came to visit last month. We went hiking and she told me about her new job in nonprofit marketing. She's making less money, but she loves it. She's found purpose. And she apologized again, for the 100th time. I told her she could stop apologizing. The time for sorry is over. Now it's time for different. For better. She's trying. They're all trying. And I'm trying to let them. Last month I went on a date. First real date in 2 years. A guy named Michael who works in cybersecurity. He's smart and kind, and he asked me about my family. I told him the truth, all of it. The betrayal, the revenge, the reconciliation, everything. I expected him to run. Instead, he said, "You saved yourself." That's the most attractive thing I've ever heard. We're still dating. It's early. But it's nice. It's nice to be with someone who sees my strength as strength, not as something to exploit. Here's what I learned from all of this. Family is not a blank check. It's not an excuse for betrayal. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to use you. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for toxic family is to set the whole dynamic on fire and see what survives the flames. My family survived. Barely. But we're different now. We're honest. We're careful with each other. We're trying to build something new from the ashes of what we destroyed. Will it work? I don't know. Some days I think yes. Some days I think we're all just pretending. But I know this. I'm never going to be invisible again. I'm never going to sacrifice myself for someone else's comfort. I'm never going to let anyone steal my security, my home, my peace. I own my life now. Fully, completely. And that ownership cost me $400,000 and a year of warfare with my own family. But it was worth it, because the alternative was spending the rest of my life being used, being taken for granted, being the strong one who never breaks. I broke. I broke everything. And in that breaking, I found myself. 6 months ago, I started a nonprofit. It's called the Jasmine Carter Foundation. We help young Black women who are being financially exploited by family members. We provide legal services, financial literacy education, and emotional support. Because I learned that my story isn't unique. There are thousands of women out there, right now, being used as ATMs by their families, being guilted into funding lifestyles they can't afford, being told that saying no means they're not really family. I'm helping them say no. I'm helping them save themselves. And last week, I helped a 8-year-old woman named Taylor buy back her condo from her parents who'd done the exact same thing mine did. When she got those keys, when she held them in her hands and cried, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt purpose. This is what I was supposed to learn from all of this. That pain can become power. That betrayal can become mission. That survival can become salvation, not just for yourself, but for others. My name is Jasmine Carter. I'm 33 years old. I was betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect me. I burned everything down to save myself. And from those ashes, I built something better. Not just for me, for all of us. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever been the responsible child who gets used, if you've ever had to choose between family and your own survival, know this. You're not alone. You're not selfish. You're not wrong. And you have the power to save yourself. Nobody else is coming. But you're enough. You were always enough. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, the greatest act of love is sometimes refusing to be destroyed. Stay strong. Stay free. This is Jasmine Carter, signing off.